At Christmas, I discovered an incredible truth. Your hidden pity can spark life-changing change. The snow fell heavy in the small town, painting rooftops white and muffling the world outside. Christmas lights twinkled on every corner, festive and warm, a stark contrast to the chill in Sarah's heart. At 34, she was a single mother working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table for her 2 kids, Jamie and Lily. That Christmas Eve, as she watched her neighbors bustle with joy, her chest tightened with inadequacy. They were all gathering for holiday parties, while she felt trapped by the weight of her broken dreams and empty bank account. Inside her modest home, Sarah rummaged through a box of decorations. "Mommy, can we make cookies?" Lily begged, her innocent eyes sparkling with hope. The thought of making cookies lit a small flame in Sarah's heart. "Sure, honey," she replied, trying to mask the quiver in her voice. But the reality of her situation loomed large. All she had was a half-empty bag of flour and a few sprinkles, barely enough for a single batch. A sudden knock at the door shattered her concentration. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. Who could it be? As she opened the door, it swung wide to reveal a figure wrapped in a thick jacket, snow dusting his boots. It was her estranged father. Stunned, Sarah felt a rush of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. "Dad," she uttered, uncertainty threading through her voice. "Sarah," his voice cracked. They stood there, 2 broken pieces of a puzzle that never quite fit. The years of abandonment pressed down on them both. Memories of family dinners turned sour flooded back, tainted by betrayal. Yet in that moment it dawned on Sarah that she wasn't just battling her past. She was now a mother, struggling for the warmth and love that had eluded her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A local shop owner had taken notice of Sarah's tireless effort and discreetly offered her a part-time job, igniting a spark of hope in her weary heart. But her father's arrival overshadowed that flicker. What did he even want after all these years? Later, as they sat together at the town's community center, the sound of laughter blended with the aroma of warm cider. Sarah's children practiced for the annual Christmas show. For the first time in what felt like eons, she caught a glimpse of community. Their smiles radiated warmth that wrapped around her like a blanket. But just as she began to breathe, she turned to see her father, vulnerable and watching, his past etched in the lines of his face. As the curtain rose and her children took the stage, performing with joy, something began to stir in Sarah. For a moment, amidst the cheers of support, she sensed a thread of connection to her father and the community. Could they mend the pieces of their past together? Would her heart find room for forgiveness? With hope slowly tugging at her, she stood at that crossroads, facing the weight of resentment and the possibility of healing. But Christmas was just hours away, and with it the stirring question remained. Would she embrace the love of her children and the community, or would the shadows of her past continue to haunt her? As the performance concluded, cheers erupted around the community center. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she watched Jamie and Lily shine on stage, their faces filled with pure joy. Children embraced each other, laughter echoing off the walls. But amidst the applause, Sarah felt a familiar knot in her stomach. The joy surrounding her felt like a distant melody, alive yet unattainable. Her father, Dan, stood a few paces away, his expression a mix of joy and longing. The distance between them was palpable. Sarah turned away, unwilling to confront the turmoil swirling inside her. She couldn't help but recall the bitter arguments, the silence that hung in the air like a storm cloud. Those memories threatened to drown the warmth of the moment. "Mommy, did you see us?" Lily's excited voice broke through Sarah's thoughts. "Of course. You were amazing." Sarah beamed, her smile genuine as she knelt to embrace her daughter. Jamie joined them, and in that moment the worries of the world faded just a little. They huddled together, squeezing tightly as if trying to capture all the warmth of the season. But then, like a shadow drifting closer, Sarah felt Dan's presence again. He cleared his throat, ready to speak, but hesitation lingered in the air. I didn't know you'd be here." I wanted to see the kids, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah stood, forcing herself to meet his gaze. What do you want, Dad? You just show up after all these years? Her words were sharper than intended, but hurt had built up like bricks around her heart. I'd like a chance to explain. I know I made mistakes. His eyes held sincerity, a flicker of hope that made Sarah's breath hitch. Could he really want to make amends? Can we talk later? She replied, her heart hammering. Not here. It's not the time or place. Okay, he nodded slowly, respect illuminating his features. The clock ticked ominously, ticking closer to midnight. As the festivities continued, Sarah's mind felt heavy. Every laugh and cheer around her echoed the discord in her heart. Could she forgive him? Could they rebuild a bridge that had been burned long ago? Suddenly, a familiar voice broke her reverie. Sarah, why don't you join us for the caroling? It was Martha, her neighbor, extending an invitation that felt more like a lifeline. Sarah glanced at her kids, whose faces lit up with excitement at the idea of singing Christmas carols. In that moment, she realized carving out joy for her children could perhaps light her own path. Sure, she replied, forcing a smile and nudging Jamie and Lily toward the doorway. They joined a group of friends, the snow gently swirling outside, creating a perfect holiday scene. As they began to sing, a magical moment unfolded, voices intertwined like threads weaving a tapestry of hope. In that shared harmony, Sarah felt the bitterness begin to soften, replaced by warmth and connection. But somewhere in the back of her mind, the tension with her father still lingered. The unresolved emotions hung like ornaments, waiting to be addressed. The carols wrapped around her, but her heart still sought a resolution. In that sweet, rhythmic moment of song, a realization struck her. Perhaps forgiveness was not a single act but a journey. And at the heart of it lay the love she held for her children, pure and unwavering. As the night air filled with music and laughter, Sarah looked back to where her father stood. A decision loomed heavy in her thoughts. Would she take the first step toward mending their relationship? Would it be the moment of truth she feared or a new beginning? The night was still young, and Sarah could feel the stirring of change approaching. What would tomorrow bring? As the last notes faded into the night, a question lingered. Was she ready to reclaim her past and build a better future? The air crackled with a special kind of magic as Sarah and her children finished the last carol. Laughter bubbled up, mingling with the sound of crunching snow underfoot. The world outside shimmered with festive lights, yet Sarah felt a heaviness settle within her. A mix of joy for her children and the unspoken tension that loomed with her father. Mom, can we get hot cocoa? Jamie's innocent request pulled her back to the present. His eyes sparkled with excitement, a reflection of the wonder of childhood. Absolutely, she responded, ruffling his hair, trying to shake off the lingering doubts. They trudged through the snow, Lily's small hand tightly clasped in hers, leaving behind the fading echoes of their caroling. As they entered the cafe, the aroma of warm chocolate enveloped them. The bustling chatter and clinking of mugs felt alive and inviting. They found a cozy corner table, and soon steaming mugs with whipped cream topped with sprinkles arrived. Sarah watched as Jamie and Lily giggled, sharing stories of their performance while playfully slurping their cocoa. Mom, do you think we can do it again next year? Lily asked, her eyes wide with hopes. Yes, I think we can make that happen, Sarah said, her heart swelling with affection. In that moment, she felt a stab of guilt, remembering the uncertainty that hung between her and Dan. How could she teach her children about forgiveness and healing while still feeling so torn inside? But just as she was about to voice her thoughts, Martha approached their table, her cheeks rosy from the cold. Oh, there you are. The kids were wonderful tonight. You must be so proud. Thanks, Martha, we really enjoyed it, Sarah replied, forcing a smile. Martha leaned in closer, lowering her voice. I overheard you talking to Dan earlier. Are you okay? It's a tough situation. Sarah hesitated. The weight of her emotions felt too heavy to share. It's complicated. I thought I'd put those feelings behind me, but her voice trailed off as she eyed her children playing. You have every right to feel how you do, Sarah. Just remember, whatever you choose, you have support. Don't be afraid to reach out. Martha's words were gentle yet powerful, striking a chord within Sarah. As they chatted, she felt the knots in her heart begin to loosen. The cafe filled with laughter and life, a stark contrast to her internal conflict. She resolved to face Dan not just for herself, but for her children, for the models of forgiveness and strength she wanted to be. After saying goodbye to Martha, they headed toward the community center once more. The snowflakes danced around them, and Jamie and Lily pranced ahead, their joy spilling into the cold night air. Just as they neared the entrance, Sarah took a deep breath. She saw Dan standing alone, looking lost. The sight of him reminded her why this meeting mattered. Wasn't this the lesson she wanted to impart to her children about healing and understanding? "Mom, are you okay?" Jamie's concerned voice broke her reverie. "Yes, sweetie. Just thinking," she said, her heart racing. She felt the urge to hide, to retreat from this moment, but then she looked at her children, so full of hope and love. "Stay close, okay?" she whispered to them. They approached her father, a mingling surge of hope and dread surging through her. "Sarah," Dan said, his voice breaking slightly, "I wanted to talk. If you're ready." The weight of his words hung in the air like an unwrapped gift, awaiting her choice. With a steadying breath, Sarah stepped forward. "Let us talk, Dad." And just like that, the past didn't completely disappear, but it cracked open just enough for the possibility of something new. In her heart, she felt the stirring of change, a moment that could rewrite the story of their family. Would this be the beginning of their healing or another misstep? As she led her children closer, a singular thought echoed. Could forgiveness truly pave the way to connection? Dan shifted nervously, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his coat, eyes darting between Sarah and her children. The shadows of the community center danced with the glow from the holiday lights, enhancing the air of anticipation and unease. "Sarah, I've missed you." "Missed this," he said softly, stepping closer. The sincerity in his voice cut through the cold night. Sarah felt herself tense. She had longed for these words, yet hearing them in this moment sparked a wave of conflicting emotions. Yes, she missed him too, but what if this was just another false start? "It's been hard, Dad. We have a lot to unpack." "You're right." He nodded, his expression filled with regret. "I know I've made mistakes. I've hurt our family, and for that I'm sorry." His voice broke a little, and it struck Sarah how genuine his pain seemed. Jamie, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, honey. We're just talking, okay?" She offered him a reassuring smile. Dan extended a hand toward Jamie, crouching slightly. "Hey buddy, I want you to know I'm really proud of you. You sang beautifully tonight." Jamie's brow furrowed in confusion, but he accepted the compliment. Lily, standing beside her brother, simply watched, her young eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. "Can we all sit down?" "I think we need to talk as a family," Sarah suggested, indicating the nearby benches. The kids jumped up eagerly, sensing something important was brewing. The four of them settled in, Sarah's heart racing. "So Dad, let us try to start fresh," she said, her voice steadying. "Can you help me understand?" "I want to," he replied earnestly. "I've been trying to change. To be better for you all. For the first time in a long time, I see how much I've taken for granted." His honesty resonated with Sarah, prompting a flicker of hope. This meeting could be more than just another attempt to paper over the cracks between them. Could it really be a step toward something more lasting? As Sarah listened, she felt memories wash over her, good ones from simpler times. The laughter shared over family dinners, the hugs after long days. The urge to cling to those happy moments collided with the hurt that had built up over years. "How did we get here?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "The distance between us feels impossible sometimes." Dan's gaze lowered, the weight of his past hanging heavy. "I wanted to protect you from what I thought were my failures, but instead I drove you away. I see that now." Lily reached out, placing her small hand on Sarah's arm, sensing the tension. "Mom, can we be happy like before?" Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she glanced down at her children, their hopes so raw and untouched by the years. "I want that more than anything, sweetheart," she whispered. "Dad, can we start by being honest?" "Absolutely," he said, his eyes brightening. "Let us share everything, the good, the bad. I'll listen, and I promise to hear you." With that, Sarah felt a crack in her heart widen just enough to let a bit of light in. Maybe this was it, the turning point. But a gnawing question lingered in her mind. Was she truly ready to dive into those depths of honesty? Just then, Jamie's voice broke through her thoughts. "Mom, will we all be okay?" The moment of truth hung just above their heads. tangible and daunting. Could they truly find a way back to one another? And if they did, what would that look like? As the snow continued to fall softly around them, Sarah felt a rush of warmth from her children even in the biting cold. Perhaps she could forge a new path, one filled with both vulnerability and strength. But could they all endure the journey? That uncertainty loomed just as the fleeting warmth from the cafe felt miles away. "Let us find out together," Sarah finally replied, determination igniting within her. It was a promise, a commitment to try. But in the depths of her heart, she knew the hardest part was yet to come. How could she bring up the painful past that had so long held them captive? The air was thick with unsaid words, each one hanging heavily as the children shifted in their seats. Sarah's heart raced, an uneasy rhythm matching the fluttering of her thoughts. She stole a glance at Jamie, who was staring up at Dan with wide eyes, innocent yet searching for reassurance. Lily, ever attuned to the energy around her, squeezed Sarah's hand, a small gesture that allowed a flicker of strength to seep through Sarah's uncertainty. "Okay, let us start with why we're here," Sarah began, her voice steady but soft. "You apologize. Now let us talk about what that really means. What are you willing to do to make things different this time?" Dan's eyes brightened, the flicker of hope almost palpable. "I know it won't happen overnight, but I want to be involved in your lives. I want to earn your trust back." He focused intently on Jamie and Lily. "I've missed so many moments, and I want to be part of the future. Not just as a voice on the other end of the phone." A gulp formed in Sarah's throat. Could it be true? She wanted to believe him, to trust in this new version of her father. But doubt danced in the back of her mind. "Being present means more than just showing up, Dad. It means owning up to the pain you caused. We need to talk about it." For a moment, Dan looked like a man who had been caught off guard. Perhaps he thought they could just gloss over the years of hurt and start on a clean slate. "You're right," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I ran away from my problems instead of facing them. It's something I'm learning to do now, but it's hard to talk about." "I don't want to just hear the good things," Sarah pressed, her heart igniting with a mixture of fear and courage. "I need to hear why you left us. Why you stayed away." Dan shifted slightly, the weight of her words drawing a heavy sigh. "I thought, if I distanced myself I wouldn't hurt you anymore," he admitted, vulnerability creeping into his voice. "I wanted to shield you from my failures, but it only made things worse. I know that now." Tears glossed Sarah's eyes as she watched Dan battle past demons. "We felt abandoned, Dad. It broke us. It broke me." The words came out more powerful than intended, years of pent-up anguish rushing out with them. Jamie's small voice broke through the air, bright and innocent. "I don't want you to leave again, Grandpa." A pained expression crossed Dan's face as he looked at his grandson. "I want to. I promise I want to. I want to learn how to be here for you, Jamie." Lily leaned closer to her brother, the uncertainty lingering in her eyes. Sarah couldn't help but feel the innocence of her children standing at the brink of a new beginning where they could either soar or crash. "Let us figure it out together," Dan suggested, glancing over at Sarah. "I'm willing to hear anything you all want to say. Every feeling, every fear, I want to understand." Sarah nodded, a connection forming within the jagged edges of her past. For the first time she felt a thread of something like hope weaving through the fray. "Okay, but it won't be easy. We've all been hurt, and the road ahead is uncertain." "Ice in every road?" Dan said lightly, a fleeting grin breaking through. "Maybe this time we can walk it as a family." As the warmth of the lights enveloped them, Sarah realized this was a small step towards healing. But lurking beneath that warmth was a deeper, darker layer of unspoken truths waiting to be uncovered. Just as her heart felt lighter, an unsettling thought crept in. Were they truly ready to face the ugly reality of their past? The ghosts that hovered and haunted each one of them stood at the edge, waiting for their chance to disrupt this fragile moment. "Mom, what if there's more you need to say?" Jamie asked, his young heart sensing the undercurrent of tension. Sarah's heart sank slightly. The burdens of the past were still heavy on her chest, and yet she had to decide what to share and what to hold close. "I guess we'll have to find out, won't we?" The echo of her words hung in the icy air, as the snow continued to fall softly around them, each flake a reminder of how much they had to overcome, and the possibilities that lay ahead. As the silence settled like a thick blanket, Sarah's mind raced. Jamie's innocent question hung heavily between them, the weight of it pulling her back into dark corners of her memory that had long since been locked away. She could see Dan's unease reflected in the flicker of his eyes. He too felt the tension creating fissures in the fragile moment they were trying to build. Maybe there's more. But what? Sarah thought, her stomach churning. She didn't want to drag them through old wounds. She wanted to protect her children from the hurt she had endured. Yet, if there was ever a chance for healing, it had to start with honesty. Maybe I do have something, she whispered, her voice catching. Dan leaned forward, the warmth in his gaze urging her on. You left because you thought it was for the best, to protect us. But it wasn't just that, was it? You let your fear win. The truth cut through the air like a sharp blade. Dan flinched, the reality of his past stark against the tender emotions swirling in the room. I know. I was a coward, he admitted, a deep sorrow etched on his face. Something I've had to come to terms with. But listen, Sarah pressed on, empowered by the truth flowing like a river. You didn't just go away. You vanished. You let us feel like we didn't matter. And every birthday, every holiday, it felt like a reminder of that absence. The words flowed faster now, as if they were finally cascading down the dam that had held them back for so long. When you didn't show up, we made up stories. Jamie thought maybe you were lost. Lily just thought you forgot. I had to hold them while my heart shattered. I was afraid all the time. Afraid of what they would think of you. Dan appeared smaller somehow. I didn't know. I thought space was what you needed. No. Jamie's voice rang clear, innocent yet firm. I need you. We need you. The pure emotion in his words seeped into the space, and Dan's breath caught in his throat. The resilience in Jamie's tiny frame posed a challenge to Dan. Can you try? Sarah urged softly, almost begging. Instead of ghosting us again, can you promise to be here, even when it's messy? I will. Dan's words were quiet but fierce, as he examined his children's hopeful faces, the barometer of his progress. I can't change the past, but I want to try to build something now. Together. Lily's eyes glistened with hope, her small fingers gripping Jamie's as if anchoring them both to the moment. Together. For real, Sarah echoed, realizing the profound truth in those shared words. But you've got to meet us in the mess, Dad. We might not always be easy to understand. Then I'll dig deeper, Dan promised, his voice stronger as he nodded. That's what it takes, I'll do it. I'm ready. Tears brimming in her eyes, Sarah felt something shift within herself. A long-buried weight lifting ever so slightly. Thank you, she whispered, her resources finally feeling richer. Buoyed up not just by hope, but by shared resolve. Yet, despite this flickering light, Sarah sensed the undercurrents of unaddressed issues swirling like unseen fog around them. The past was tangled up with emotions that still lurked, waiting like specters. What happens when we hit those walls? Jamie spoke up again, his small voice breaking through the moment. Will it really be different? Sarah's heart sank. She wanted to answer him boldly, but the question forced her to confront the uncertainty. I want to believe so, sweetheart, she replied, glancing at Dan. But what if we break again? As Dan looked between his children and Sarah, a cloud of uncertainty crossed his face, hinting at a darker truth yet uncovered. The temperature in the room shifted, the warmth of hope warring with the chill of unspoken truths. Can we truly change? Sarah wondered aloud, and in that moment doubt began to settle in, creeping back like the snowflakes outside, soft but relentless. As their collective breaths hung in the air, an unshakable question lingered. Would they find the strength to carry on? Or would the weight of the past pull them back into darkness once more? The air thickened with unspoken fears as they sat there, the warmth of hope tangled with the icy tendrils of doubt. Sarah stole a glance at Dan, who seemed to be wrestling with his own demons. His brow furrowed, deep in thought, as if he were trying to piece together a puzzle that had long seemed impossible to solve. We have to talk about what happens next, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Jamie and Lily shifted slightly, their young eyes wide, drinking in this moment of potential change. What do we do if the past creeps back in? Dan let out a shaky breath. I don't know, not for sure. But avoiding it hasn't worked, has it? Maybe we need to face it together. As a family. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of his words. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into a vast unknown. But how do we make sure we don't hurt each other again? Let us promise to be honest, Jamie chimed in, his small voice unwavering. Even when it's scary. That way we can help each other, right? Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she listened to her son, so brave for his age. She wrapped her arms around him, pulling him close, feeling his warmth. Yes, Jamie. Being honest will be our first step. Lily, always the contemplative one, spoke up next. But what if being honest makes us feel worse? What if it hurts? Then we deal with it, Dan said firmly, his eyes locking onto Sarah's. We lean on each other no matter how hard it gets. It might be messy, but we can't hide anymore. A shiver ran through Sarah. She knew that exposing the raw hurt would take courage. I just want us to come out stronger, she murmured. Together, Dan echoed softly, gently squeezing Lily's hand. Jamie sat up straight, determination sparkling in his bright eyes. Maybe we should start with something small? Like what we used to love doing together. Like baking cookies? Lily suggested, her voice brightening. There was a softness in the atmosphere as laughter bubbled up, the mention of cookies slicing through the tension like a warm blade. Yes, Sarah replied, we could do that. I can teach you my secret chocolate chip recipe. So it's not just about talking? Jamie's face lit up. We can do fun stuff too? Exactly. It's about rebuilding those memories, Sarah encouraged, grateful for the shift in mood. Baking would give them a chance to speak while doing something enjoyable, blending laughter with deeper conversations. Let us do it then, Jamie exclaimed, his excitement infectious. He hopped up and ran to the kitchen, his little feet a flurry of energy. Dan and Sarah exchanged smiles, even as unacknowledged concerns swirled. We have a long way to go, he said, softening the light moment with reality. But this feels like a start. Yes, it does. But we still need to address the scars, Sarah replied, her heart beating heavier again. She felt the responsibility weighing on her shoulders, the realization that time would not make their pain disappear completely. Can we promise to check in with one another? Dan asked, looking serious again. I mean, to not brush off feelings when they come up? Even when it's hard. That's a good idea, Sarah nodded, appreciating his thoughtfulness. This is a journey for all of us. The sound of giggles floated in from the kitchen as Jamie and Lily discussed which toppings to use on the cookies. The weight in Sarah's heart lightened ever so slightly. But in the recesses of her mind, fear still lingered. What if this blend of hope and vulnerability led to a greater heartache? What if they were too fragile to weather the storm together? As she inhaled deeply, Sarah steeled herself for what lay ahead. Could their small family really face the wounds of yesterday and emerge unbroken? And as the laughter rang out around her, a question arose in her heart, one that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Could they truly build a future when the past was always lurking just behind the curtain? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the kitchen as Jamie and Lily transformed the space into their own little wonderland of flour and chocolate chips. Laughter floated through the air like sweet music, a stark contrast to the heaviness that had settled just moments before. Sarah leaned against the counter, stirring the batter as memories of laughter from years past danced in her mind. Her hands moved through the dough like they had years ago. But today, each stir felt oddly charged with purpose. She stole a glance at Dan, who was busy arranging the cookie sheet. His brow was relaxed, and the corner of his mouth twitched upward in a soft smile that warmed her heart. Hey Dad, can you help us make cookie shapes? Jamie chimed, his eyes sparkling with the enthusiasm of little hands covered in flour. Sarah could see how much this meant to him, and her chest swelled with an uncontrollable mix of love and anxiety. How could one moment be so joyous and yet shadowed by so many uncertainties? Of course, Dan replied, his voice growing lighter. He gathered up some extra flour and sprinkled it onto the counter. Let us make the biggest cookies anyone has ever seen. Yeah, Lily shouted, her giggle bubbling over as she grabbed a rolling pin. It rolled as she sent a gentle nudge toward Jamie, and the two erupted into a playful tussle, flour flying everywhere. Sarah watched them, a smile blooming on her face, but beneath it lay the quiet question of whether they could keep this lightness intact while facing the shadows of their past. She joined them, kneeling down to their level. Okay, let us show this dough who's boss. But with each cookie they shaped, Sarah felt a slip of her resolve. The laughter echoed, covering up whispers from her mind that tugged at her, reminding her of past failures, broken promises, and the scars that were not so easily healed. Mom, Jamie's tiny voice broke through her thoughts, pulling Sarah back into the moment. Yeah, sweetheart? Can we make a cookie that looks like a heart? A lump rose in her throat. Of course we can. As they cut out shapes, Sarah thought about the layers buried hidden beneath the surface. She imagined each cookie they created was a little piece of their reconciliation, soft, vulnerable, and still requiring care. Hey, maybe we can leave a spot for Dad to decorate, Lily suggested, her innocence shining brightly. Yeah, he can make it all shiny, Jamie added, very seriously contemplating the decoration process and all its possibilities. Just then Dan leaned in, placing his hands on their shoulders. You two are doing such an amazing job. I can't wait to see how beautiful these cookies turn out. The simple pride in his voice sent comfort rippling through Sarah. Yet doubt still fluttered within her. Could a kitchen full of cookies replace the years of hurt they had endured? Would laughter overshadow tears when faced with the weight of reality? As they placed their creations in the oven, the kitchen filled with an aroma that warmed more than just the air. Sarah closed her eyes, taking a moment to let the smell wash over her, hoping it wrapped around the fragility of their current joy. Can I help? The sudden voice brought them all pause. Sarah opened her eyes to see their neighbor, Mrs. Thornton, standing in the doorway. Her presence was unexpected but welcomed. She was the person who not long ago had stood by Sarah's side during those dark days. Of course, come in, Sarah called, suddenly feeling more exposed but not unwelcome. As Mrs. Thornton entered, she brought with her an aura of understanding. The children rushed to greet her, showing off their cookie shapes with pride, while Sarah wondered if perhaps these moments shared would open another door, a chance to bring their histories together in a way that healed, rather than hurt. What do you think? Can we really face our past without losing ourselves in it? Sarah mused quietly to herself, even as the chaos and warmth surrounded her. And as the old warmth began to settle in, a new scary thought prickled her heart. What if confronting those shadows meant also facing truths that were better left untouched? Mrs. Thornton stepped into the kitchen, immediately enveloped by the warmth and laughter swirling around. Her eyes twinkled at the sight of flour-coated children, and the smell of cookies filling the air. Oh my, what have you all been up to? She asked, her voice a soothing melody against the giggles. Cookies! Jamie exclaimed, waving a heart-shaped dough cutout in the air as if it were a trophy. We're making the biggest cookies ever. Mrs. Thornton chuckled, her gaze softening. I can see that. How can I help? Do you want to decorate them with us? Lily hopped on her feet, excitement bubbling over. Absolutely, Mrs. Thornton replied with genuine enthusiasm. As she joined the little ones in their corner of chaos, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe sharing this moment, this beautiful mess, could be a step toward something bigger. Sarah stood back for a moment and watched as the three of them crowded around the table, their laughter mixing with the clinks of measuring spoons and the soft thud of cookie sheets hitting the counter. She remembered the times when she and Dan used to bake cookies with the kids before everything had changed. Did you ever think about how cookies can bring people together? Dan asked, breaking Sarah from her reverie. He had approached her quietly, standing close enough for her to feel his warmth. They definitely make things sweeter, she replied, her smile faltering as the memories returned. Uninvited arguments, silence, distance. Could they heal the cracks with something as simple as sugar and butter? Dan's expression shifted as he seemed to read her thoughts. I know we've been through a lot, he said carefully, but maybe we can use moments like this to rebuild. A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah's chest, but it was tethered to the fear of past pains. Can a few cookies really change everything? She whispered, almost to herself. Just then Jamie, with chocolate smudged on his cheek, tugged at her apron. Mom, look! Mrs. Thornton says we can make a special batch with extra love. Will that make them taste even better? A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Of course, sweetie. Extra love makes everything better. Mrs. Thornton glanced up with a knowing look. It's true, Sarah. Sometimes the simple acts carry the most meaning. It's not just cookies. It's about making memories, rebuilding trust, reminding ourselves that we can. The weight of her neighbor's words hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful. Could they really stitch their family back together, one cookie at a time? As they scooped dollops of dough onto the sheets, Sarah felt the warmth of community wrap around her, mingling with her fears. What if this moment was the start A moment to embrace their fragility instead of hiding it under layers of past hurts? In the midst of such sweetness, the doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected. The sound sliced through the joyful atmosphere, pulling everyone's attention. It was a reminder of the outside world. A world filled with unanswered questions and unresolved pasts, all the things she had been avoiding facing. Who could that be? Dan asked, glancing towards the door with curiosity. Sarah's heart raced. What if it was someone from their past? Someone who would either confirm her fears or break the fragile peace they were so desperately trying to build. Jamie and Lily shared a look, their excitement tempered with intrigue. Sarah inhaled deeply, a mix of anticipation and dread coursing through her veins. Should I get it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Definitely, Jamie exclaimed, bouncing on his heels. As she approached the door, uncertainty clung to her like a second skin. What awaited her on the other side? Would confronting this visitor lead to more chaos or an unexpected turn of healing? With one last deep breath, she opened the door, bracing herself for everything that might come next. The door swung open, and there stood a familiar face, Martha, her neighbor, with a big smile and a steaming batch of freshly baked gingerbread cookies in her hands. The warmth radiating from the cookies felt almost like an embrace, a reminder that the spirit of the season was alive and well. Surprise! Martha exclaimed, her tone bright and inviting. I thought I'd drop by with some cookies of my own. I heard a little birdie telling me someone was in the cookie baking spirit. Sarah's heart relaxed in the presence of her friend. The warmth of the community felt strong, enveloping her in a safe cocoon. Martha, you're just in time. We were making cookies too. As Martha entered, the atmosphere transformed. She immediately proposed they combine their efforts, creating a cookie decorating extravaganza. With each new hand reaching into the bowl, laughter erupted, filling the kitchen with light. At that moment, it felt like they were all contributing to something bigger, a tapestry woven with shared experiences, trust, and new beginnings. Dan stepped in closer, joining the excitement. Let us make a cookie for the community center too. One that everyone can share. His words hung in the air, a challenge accepted with eager shouts from Jamie and Lily. But Sarah felt an internal tug. Dan was stepping up. He wanted to connect, to give back. Yet, could one blissful afternoon erase the years of separation? What if we decorated it together? She suggested, her mind racing with cautious optimism. A cookie for the town, a symbol of our promise to come together. Great idea, Martha said, her enthusiasm infectious. And this way we can show everyone how we've made a new start. That simple idea blossomed, igniting a fire of hope within Sarah. With the cookies in front of them, they set to work, laughter dancing on the air as they mixed colors of frosting, added sprinkles, and shared snippets of joyful memories from Christmases past. With each colorful swirl of frosting, Sarah felt her heart begin to thaw. The bitterness that had long lingered at the edges of her thoughts softened, replaced by genuine connection. Here was Dan, not as the estranged father but as a man willing to be part of their lives again, an ally in the kitchen, a father in the picnics, and perhaps one day a constant presence. As they shaped and decorated the giant cookie, a heart adorned in sprinkles, Sarah realized that healing was not just possible, it was happening. Sitting amidst her children and Dan, surrounded by warmth, there was a fulfillment in replacing brokenness with beauty. I believe we can do this, Dan said softly, a sincerity threading through his words as he added the final touch of sprinkles. I'm ready if you are. Sarah's heart swelled then, filled with love for this ragtag family they could build together. Ready for what? She grinned, echoing his promise of dedication. To open up, to face what's hard, Dan replied, glancing at the children, who made silly faces at each other, lost in their own world of fun. To show them what it means to be a family even with the messiness that comes along. Sarah nodded, hope glowing in her chest. It will take time, but getting through it together. That's what matters most. The heart-shaped cookie glistened in front of them. It was imperfect, a beautiful mess that only reflected the rawness and authenticity of their journey. The children cheered about it being their masterpiece. Okay, let us go show this to the community, Sarah declared, feeling empowered as she looked around at the faces lit up by laughter and joy. We'll bring everyone together for a cookie party. It'll be our first real family celebration. As they moved towards the door, Sarah paused, glancing back at the kitchen one last time. The sounds of joyous laughter filled the air, the scent of freshly baked cookies lingering like a sweet memory they would cherish. Martha noticed her thoughtful silence. You know, these little moments, they add up, Sarah, she whispered, her eyes expressing understanding. You're building something new. It's in the warmth of their smiles. With renewed determination, Sarah stepped outside holding hands with Jamie and Lily, followed closely by Dan and Martha, their hearts aglow with possibility. And as the snow fell gently around them, the whispers of the past faded into the joy of the present. In that moment, the weight of doubt released its hold. They were stepping into a world full of hope and potential, each snowflake a reminder of the beautiful mess they had created together, each one a promise that the shadows of yesterday could light up the journey of tomorrow. She exhaled deeply, uttering words she hadn't thought she'd find again anytime soon. I think everything will be okay. And in that snowy embrace of community and family, Sarah felt light enough to believe it. As they turned toward the community center, ready to share their creation, she couldn't help but smile and feel grateful for what was, and what could be. This was their moment. And amidst the soft music of carols and laughter, a thought struck her. Love could heal even the deepest wounds, if only they were brave enough to embrace it. Now this is a moment to remember. If you want to keep feeling these heartwarming stories, subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive adventures. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people find these transformative tales. Comment your reactions and feelings about this beautiful ending below. Your words can uplift and inspire others. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show them the magic of community, family, and love.